This story begins on Isla Ente, a set of 5 islands that form a cross. These are 4 continents that surround one. That is in the center. There is Satan's castle. He wants to dominate Isla Ente, so the demons and creatures of the night live there. Satan sends his 4 generals to dominate the 4 continents. They are Adranlek, Lucifer, Alsiel, and Malika, but they were defeated by Emilia the hero. With her sacred sword and her army freed the 4 continents and went to the center island to kill Satan herself. But Lord Satan and Alsiel escaped through a portal to a world unknown to them, the human world. They now have a human form, and suddenly a patrol with 2 policemen approach them to ask if they are okay. But Satan and Alsiel can't answer because they don't speak Japanese. After that, they are taken to the police station, and Satan hypnotizes one of the policemen to give him information about this world. Then Satan goes in search of Alsiel and tell him that they are on planet Earth in an archipelago called Japan, and its capital is Tokyo. And the worst part, in this human world, there is no magic, no demons, no spells. All of these are considered fantasies. They leave the police station, and Satan tells Alsiel that he still has a bit of his magic, although he has trouble using it, and he asks Alsiel if he still has some. Then Alsiel tries to cast a spell raising his arm. Nothing happens. He only manages to stop a taxi driver who thought they needed him. They must figure out how to get their powers back, and in the meantime, they now have to live in the human world by human rules. The next day, they go to the ward office, and with the help of Satan's hypnosis, they obtain records, residency certificates, IDs, and create a bank account. After that, Satan also manages to rent a house to live in, although it was difficult since he barely knows the language, but the house is really just one big room. At night, Satan and Alsiel rest for a moment, but Satan faints and is taken to the hospital, and the 2 realize that human bodies need food to survive, and for everything you need money. So the next day, they are determined to get a job with their new identities. Satan is Maou-sama, and Alsiel is Shiro Ashiya. Much time later, Maou and Ashiya are settled in their new life. Maou works at a fast food restaurant called MgRonald's, while Alsiel is his houseman. They already have several things like a refrigerator, a washing machine, and even a bicycle for Maou to go to work. But even so, the money is not enough, and Ashiya complains about it, making Maou go to work faster. On a rainy day, while Ashiya goes to the library to research about magic, Maou goes to work and meets a magenta-haired girl who doesn't have an umbrella, and he gives his umbrella to her. After that, we see how Maou is an exceptional worker and very kind to customers. He works together with a very clumsy girl named Chiho. Even so, he encourages her to improve. Today is a very important day. According to the sales, it will be decided what MgRonald's is the #1 in the district. But that day, the fryer breaks, and he is tempted to do magic to fix it. But he must use his magic for emergencies because when it runs out, he won't be able to regenerate anymore. So he sadly leaves the potato fryer unrepaired. After that, Maou is called by the manager. He will be promoted. He goes home very happy to tell Ashiya, but he meets the magenta-haired girl again, and she tells him that she was watching him all day and saw that he wanted to use magic to fix the fryer. Maou is speechless, and he realizes that the girl is Emilia the hero. Chapter 2. Emilia tells him that she followed him through the gate and has come to... She takes out from her bag, but Maou realizes that it is a cheap and that she no longer has celestial powers, nor does she have her sacred sword. She's ready, but they are taken to the police station for fighting in public. The policeman thinks it is a lover quarrel and scolds Emilia for attacking her ex-boyfriend instead of talking like adults. After that, they are released, and Emilia tells Maou that she will let him go tonight, but starting tomorrow, he will have to watch his back and leaves, but not before teasing that he's a demon who works part-time. The next day, Emilia the hero, now called Imai Yusa, works as a call center agent. After leaving work, Imai buys things on the way home. She lives in a nice apartment, but is frustrated because even though she makes fun of Maou, she now lives the same life as him. Meanwhile, Maou and Ashiya eat quietly, but suddenly some loud knocks interrupt them. It's Imai. Maou tells Ashiya that she is also in the human world without powers like them, so they let in a very angry Imai. When she walks in, she can't believe that the ruler of demons lives in such a small place and eats such pathetic food, but Maou defends Ashiya's dinner since he's able to cook with very few ingredients. Then she tells them that Old Mayor, a high priest, was going to come with her, but the portal closed and now she doesn't know how to return to their world either. Maou says that he has a plan with his job at MgRonald's. He will get money, become an important figure, dominate Japan and all humans, and then invade Ente Isla once more. Imai looks at him skeptically and decides to go home, but warns him that she doesn't kill him with magic because she is saving it for when she can return to Ente Isla. The following days, Imai spies on Maou and Ashiya at night since she do not believe that the demon is living such a poor and peaceful life, but every night she is disappointed when she sees them doing normal things like going to the supermarket, going to the bathhouses, or try new recipes. One night, she goes to McDonald's and tells Maou to meet at the place they met the first time and leaves. Chilo approaches him and believes that the 2 of them had a relationship before, but Maou assures her that they did not. After finishing work, Chiho tells him that yesterday's earthquake felt very strong in her house. but Maou says that he and his roommate barely felt it, which calls Chiho's attention, and she asks if that roommate is a girlfriend, but Maou says he's a friend. Later, Ime and Maou meet, and she says that she has been watching him for days and has realized that he is living a peaceful life and he should live in Japan forever. So she wants if that's the case, but Maou says that he will not give up on conquering Ente Isla. Suddenly, they are attacked by magic. They easily evade, but they can't see the sniper. After that, they go home. But when Maou arrives at his, he meets Ime at the door, and she asks him to spend the night there. He agrees, and Ashiya can't believe that his sire would allow such a thing, but Maou explains that she lost her wallet and is too far from home to walk. Then he gives her a blanket to sleep on the floor since they don't have a futon for guests. Later, Ashiya tells Maou that he is softening up suddenly. Chiho sends him messages saying that there will be more earthquakes. Chapter 3. The next day, Emi leaves before Ashiya and Maou wake up. Later, in the news, they show the consequences of the with magic that Emi and Maou suffered, such as his destroyed bicycle. Meanwhile, Chiho watches the news as well and asks Maou to meet today to talk about earthquakes, and he agrees. Later, Emi receives a call from someone unknown who knows the truth about her and Maou. He was the one who tried to last night, and the most shocking thing is that he says that the extermination of the King Satan and Emilia the hero is the collective will of Ente Isla. She doesn't believe him because she assumes he's a demon, so he hangs up on her. After that, Ime goes to the police station because Maou registered her as his guarantor. Ime is furious that a hero is the one to take care of a demon. At the exit of the police station, Ime tells him that she received a call threatening them both and leaves. On the way home, Maou tells Ashiya that he's going to see Chiho, so Ashiya thinks it is a date and makes him dress accordingly. Although Maou was upset. Later, Chiho arrives at the agreed place dressed pretty and with a new haircut that is noticed by Maou. She also notices that he is dressed better than before, and he says that he should dress up for a date. She is very happy to think that this is a date, so she asks to hold hands and he agrees. The date is spied by Ashiya and Ime, who was passing by and saw him. Ime realizes that Maou is on a date and thinks that he has wicked intentions. But Ashiya explains that Chiho knows something about earthquakes. She will tell them everything she knows because she is in love with Maou. Ime decides that they should listen more closely and goes to the cafe. Meanwhile, Chiho tells Maou that since she worked at McGronald's, her tinnitus got bad, but last night the ringing in her ears turned into the voice of someone speaking in an unknown language. That voice said that a great disturbance is coming soon to this world. Maou realizes that what Chiho heard was a communication between humans from different worlds tuning their minds together. They use Sonar Pro technology to do it. When the sonar pulse reaches its target, it causes a magical explosion, manifesting itself in various phenomena. So Maou thinks that the pulse became earthquakes in this case, and they feel them very closely because someone must be looking for him and Emilia. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted because Ime and Ashiya enter the cafeteria. So he starts talking loudly so that Ime can see that he is not doing anything wicked. He tells Chiho that she should warn her friends about the big earthquake that will occur soon. Chiho is relieved because he believes her and is about to confess her feelings to him, but is interrupted by Ime. She tells Chiho that she shouldn't go near Maou because he is cruel and cunning, but Chiho gets upset and thinks she is a jealous ex-girlfriend, so the two argue. Suddenly, a huge earthquake strikes and leaves them buried under rubble. Chiho and Ime are together without Maou. Ime takes advantage of the fact that they are alone to tell her that nothing happens between her and Maou, but that she shouldn't fall in love with him because she will get hurt, and then with magic, she puts her to sleep. Then Maou appears in his demonic form and wants to save them from the rubble. This surprises Ime a lot, who was ready to... She doesn't understand why the devil would save people. Chapter 4. Fortunately, there were no after the earthquake. While Ime looks at the destruction, she remembers the last time she saw her father. That day, he confessed that Emilia's mother was an angel and that the Holy Father had to take her away. Days later, the village where they lived was destroyed by the demonic army of General Lucifer. The Holy Father comforts Emilia for her loss and tells her that she inherited the powers of her mother, one of the great angels, and only a half-human and half-angel can wield the sacred sword, and not only that, she is the only human on Anti-Isla who can defeat the devil. Back in the present, Ime sees that Maou returned to his human form and Chiho is fine and has woken up. It turns out that she is the daughter of the policeman that Maou had hypnotized on his first night in human world, and apparently the use of his magic also affected the policeman's daughter since Chiho can hear voices. Chiho leaves with her dad and Maou tells Ime there was a planned attack. Both Ime says she doesn't understand how someone can use magic in Japan when the two of them can't even regenerate theirs. After that, Ime leaves with her friend and Maou with Ashiya, who is deeply ashamed that his sire has taken over his protection. Ime is going to spend the night at her friend's house, and she tells Ime that she also experienced an earthquake in her childhood, and that is why she wants to take care of her. Because at times like these, people can be angels or demons, just a decision is needed. After that, Ime goes to take a bath and feels warm in her heart as she thinks of Maou saving people. The next day, Iman goes to Mao's house to return the money that he had lent her for the train the day before. After that, she leaves but falls from the stairs at the exit, causing many injuries. Now Ashia and Maou have to heal her, but they don't have gauze, so Ashia goes to the pharmacy. Then Maou tries to disinfect Imi's wounds, but she gets angry and explodes. She doesn't understand why he doesn't act like the devil, and she starts yelling at him all the good things he does. Maou also gets angry and yells at her that a hero doesn't fall down stairs so easily, and then must be healed by demons like she is now. Ima can't take it anymore and starts to cry while telling him that she will never forgive him. Because of him, his general's dad, they burned her villa and everything she had in her life. He apologizes to her, but is interrupted by Ashia and Chiho. She sees them and thinks again that they are a couple and runs away. Suddenly, the landlady of the place comes and tells them that the place needs repairs, and not only that, she says that now that Maou involved Chiho in all this, he must take care of her safety, and tells them to hurry up or it might be too late. At that moment, another earthquake shakes them. Chiho is sad after seeing Maou and Ime together, and she bumps into a purple-haired boy. He tells her that he will feed on her bitterness and despair, and suddenly, the boy grows a pair of black wings and destroys the place. Maou, Ashia, and Ime arrive and can't believe what is happening. Demon General Lucifer is here. Meanwhile, at the gate portal, two of Emilia's allies are traveling to the human world. Chapter 5. The surprises continue. Not only Lucifer is in the human world, Olba Mayor too, and now they work together to eliminate Maou and Emilia. Then Maou quickly realizes that Olba Mayor wants Emilia to steal her authority, and Lucifer helps him because the High Priest promised to return him to heaven. Suddenly, in carelessness moment, Lucifer fires a magic at Ashia, wounding him in the chest, and then starts Maou and Ime. But Maou protects them with a magic shield, and they run away from the place. As they run, Maou explains to Ime that demons can feed on the fear, despair, and pain of humans, that his bitter feelings restore the magic of demons like him and Lucifer. They are quickly caught up with Lucifer, and he questions Maou why he hasn't tried to regenerate his magic. But Maou says that he likes this world and found it interesting to be a human, so he doesn't want to cause trouble for the human world. Bored with so much talk, Lucifer absorbs Chiho's negative feelings and wounds Maou with magic. Even so, he and Ime keep running. But Olba Mayor also in the leg. Since he can't run anymore, he teleports with Ime and Ashia to a place full of people. Lucifer also teleports away and Maou in the middle of the chest, not caring that there are many witnesses. He believes that Maou is so he gets rid of Chiho and Ime catches her. Lucifer is ecstatic for the victory and destroys a bridge to absorb more negative feelings. But what Lucifer did not know, that it was all a plan by Maou. He is the one who absorbs the fear and despair of people and transforms into his demonic form, Satan. Chiho wakes up and sees Maou in his demon form but isn't scared of him. Maou asks Ime for help and she transforms into Emilia the hero. Now she has silver hair, heavenly armor, and can use her sacred sword, though she still hasn't fully recovered her celestial powers. Then Maou covers them with a magical barrier so they can fight without being seen. Lucifer and Ime start a fierce battle, but she is bested by Lucifer. Luckily, she is saved by Ashia, who has also recovered his demonic powers and transformed into Demon General Alsiel. Olba Mayor joins the fight to equalize forces, but is easily defeated. Meanwhile, Maou is trying with all his might to delicately lower the destroyed bridge to avoid further damage. Chiho observes everything and is speechless, but she takes it quite well, especially because Maou reminds her that today they must go to work together at MgRonald's. After that, Maou severely beats Lucifer, since he was his general. Then they confess their true identities to Chiho, and she believes them. A badly beaten Lucifer asks Maou why he doesn't return to the magical world to conquer Ente Isla now that he has recovered all his magic powers. But Maou explains that he has many shifts at McRonald's this month. Ashia can't believe he'd rather works as a part-timer than conquer Ente Isla. Suddenly, through the gate's portal, Emilia's allies Emerada and Albert arrive. They tell Ime that not only Olba Mayor is but also the church. While they go to Mao's modest house, Maou uses all of his magical powers to fix the bridge, all the damage left by the battle, and erase the memories of the witnesses. At Mao's house, Albert tells Ime that he caused the earth quakes because he was looking for her, and Chiho realizes that he is the owner of the voice she was hearing. It turns out that Albert sent signals to the person who thinks a lot about Maou, and that was Chiho. After that, it's time for Emerada and Albert to return to their world before the church causes more trouble. At McRonald's, Maou tells Chiho that he can't go back to his world because he already used all of his magical powers, but he has a little bit left to erase her memory, and she gets mad. Chapter 6. At the magical world, a girl tells the church that Olba Mayor is missing, and not only that, Emilia is alive and the devil too. Also, she has received reports that Emerada is spreading the news about Emilia's survival and Father Olba's apostasy. That puts the church in danger because they took advantage of the supposed death of Emi, so they only have two options left: tell the truth about Olba Mayor or Emi, Albert, and Emerada. Sometime later, Lucifer is now called Yoroshihara and now lives as a human with Maou and Ashiya. He is now a hacker who can do anything with a computer and internet, like call Emilia at work to bother her. Although later she goes to scold Maou and MgRonald and finds out that he was promoted again, Chiho jokes that he is closer to ruling over humans. Then Maou explains her that Lucifer is Yoroshihara because old mayor is imprisoned, so Yoroshihara has to keep a low profile. Also with his computer, he searches for information about the magic that exists on Earth. Arriving home, Maou finds Ashiya and Yoroshihara in a very bad state because they saw a postcard photo of the Ladaland in a bathing suit. After that, Yoroshihara shows Maou the information he found supposedly in a school. There is a disused room and it is cursed. He believes there is a demon there and a magical spot. It turns out that the school is Chiho's high school, so Maou asks her for help to get them into the night. She gladly accepts to help him. At night, Maou and Ashiya are led by Chiho through the school. She tells them about the scary stories about the sealed room. A long time ago, a student disappeared in that room. Suddenly, Mao's cell phone rings, scaring him. It's Yoroshihara, and he tells him that the magnetic fields near there are destabilized, so he believes that the gates were opened there before. If they're there the next time the gates open, they might get a little bit of magic. Suddenly, they hear a noise, believing that he is a demon, but it's just Emi. They tell her about their plan. After that, they escape from her, and Emi follows them very angry. Then she destroys an anatomical model of the human body, thinking that it is a demon. Finally, they arrive at the sealed room and see that there are remains of food bags and a game system. At that moment, Yoroshihara calls on the cell phone again and tells them to bring him the game system. Maou and the others get angry because he sent them there just to pick it up. They leave the school without realizing that someone was watching them. The next day, someone moves in next door to Maou and Ashiya. After work, Maou comes home and a girl dressed in traditional Japanese clothing falls down the stairs into his arms. Chapter 7. The next day, their new neighbor introduces herself. She is Suzuno Kamizuki and she speaks a very formal Japanese. She tells them that the landlady also sent her a postcard telling her that if she was in trouble, she would seek help from Maou and Ashiya. Meanwhile, Emi is at home and calls Emerada on her cell phone to ask her about a package she received from her. It's about beta vitamins that will help her regain strength. The next day, Ashiya is sick, so the housework is done by Yoroshihara while he receives orders from their new neighbor. They are being spied on by Emi, who thinks there is a new demon with them. But she's almost discovered, so Emi runs out and falls down the stairs into Mao's arms. She realizes this and hits him to let her go. After that, they eat the food that Kamizuki prepared for them, and Emi's classic teasing begins since Maou will be a shift manager at MgRonald's while she and Maou argue as usual. Kamizuki tells them that they seem to have a very close relationship. Emi denies such nonsense and feels a deja vu. Kamizuki reminds her of Chiho, so Emi asks her if she's after Maou. Then Kamizuki takes her out of the room and says yes. So Emi warns her to be careful around Maou, but Kamizuki tells her that even if she doesn't show it, she is a warrior. Emi is relieved to hear that. Even so, she leaves her phone number and her address so Kamizuki can seek help if she needs it. Before leaving, Emi threatens Maou not to hurt Kamizuki. After that, Maou goes to work and is spied on by Emi again. Then she receives a call from Emerada. Emi tells her that she hasn't felt the effects of the beta holivitin yet, since she doesn't have time to meet with Maou and fight a battle with him. And when they see each other, they just argue. Emerada laughs and says that it sounds like couple problems. Emi gets angry but changes the subject and asks for information about the magical world. Then, Emerada tells her that the church missionaries are trying to cover up the truth about old mayor and warns her that maybe one of them is going to Japan so she asks her to take care. Meanwhile, at McDonald's, Maou receives instructions on how to do his job now that he's a shift manager. Then he goes to eat a lunchbox made by Kamizuki. When Chiho sees it, she despairs because it is made by a girl, and everything gets worse when she sees that the food is heart-shaped. Later, Emi is in a convenience store and is attacked by someone undercover, who attacks her with a scythe and violet rays. She defends herself with her sacred sword. Thanks to the beta holivitin, it was easier. Then the convenience store cashier appears and the attacker manages to escape. After this, Emi receives a call from a tearful Chiho who tells her about Maou and a lunchbox with heart-shaped food. Chapter 8. The next day, Emi and Chiho go to Mao's house. Chiho wants to know who is that girl, but when they knock on the door, they are greeted by Kamizuki. Everything is clarified when Chiho finds out that Ashiya is sick and Kamizuki is the one who prepares the food for them now. After that, they all sit down to eat the food prepared by Kamizuki. She tells them that she is looking for a job, and Maou, who does not know about Chiho's feelings, tells Kamizuki that she can work with them at McDonald's. Kamizuki says she will consider it. Then she tells them that she only has traditional Japanese clothes, so Emi will take her shopping for modern Western clothes. Meanwhile, Maou accompanies Chiho to her house as they walk. Chiho says that she will bring him a lunchbox with food since Kamizuki isn't home. He agrees but hesitantly asks if she doesn't mind that they are demons. She says that at first it bothers her a bit and she was talking to Emi about everything he has done, but she liked him since before she knew the truth, so in the future, she will stop liking him on her own, not by others. All this was heard by Kamizuki, then Chiho turns very red and goes away in embarrassment. So Kamizuki says that she is surprised that he is worried for someone. Then Maou walks Yi to the train station where Imai is waiting for her. Then Kamizuki tells Imai that she never had seen a train. Imi asks her where she come from, and Kamizuki surprises her with her answer. It turns out that Kamizuki is from Ente Isla, and she come by the gate. Imai thinks that she is the mysterious attacker, but soon dismisses that theory. Her name is Crestia Bell, and she is head investigator of the Doctrinal Correction Council. She came to investigate if it is true that Emilia the hero is an ally of King Satan. Imai flatly denies it and rushes her to take the train and go to a quieter place to talk. On the way, Kamizuki is surprised by the technology of modern Japan. Then in the cafeteria, they talk about old mayor, and Kamizuki assures Imai that not all of the church is on his side. Kamizuki wants to join forces with Imai to defeat the devil, but Imai refuses to trust someone who comes from Old Mayor's organization. She also warns Kamizuki to not use tricks against Maou after all. He is the devil and he will find out. Before leaving, she leaves her magazine so she can learn the new fashions of modern Japan. Meanwhile, McGronald's is in trouble because the Kentucky Fried Chicken's restaurant competes with them. By stealing customers, Maou will do everything possible to win them back. So he sends Ashia to spy on the SFC since its manager is very suspicious and creepy. In the afternoon, Imai leaves work and meets Kamizuki again. She bought a lot of new yukatas, although she had funny problems exchanging jewelry for money. She needs another favor from Imi. Kamizuki wants to go to MgRonald's to see Madu. Imi's friend Rika thinks she's going to witness a love triangle, so she goes with them. Chapter 9. The three arrive at MgRonald's and realize that it is deserted, so Rika decides to go to SFC, where there are a lot of people. Rika wants to know how the two of them got to the point of fighting for Mao's love, or so she thinks. Meanwhile, at MgRonald's, Maou thinks about how to attract customers. In SFC, Ashia takes offense on his sire's behalf, but is quickly convinced to sit with them because Imai will pay what he eats for his research. But he must get rid of Rika's curiosity. Then Ashia tells her a fictional story about Maou and Imai being in different construction corporations and fighting over contracts until Imai beat them and they went bankrupt. So according to Ashia's story, Maou and Imai, and she still visits them from time to time. Rika doesn't understand how they were able to run corporations when they are so young, but she still believes the story and she tells Ashia that without him and his care, Maou could not continue. Ashia is grateful for those comforting words. So now that Ashia has satiated Rika's curiosity, it's Imi's turn to pay for everything Ashia eats. Later, she goes to the register to pay and runs into the manager of the place and feels that he is a strange and creepy guy. After that, Ashia goes to McGronald's and tells him everything he found out about SSC. Unfortunately, he has a lot of praise for the competition. Then Maou goes to take the girl's order and Rika says that he is not as charismatic as she thought. They start arguing until Chiho arrives and Rika is enchanted by her cuteness. That Rika tells Maou that she came to see how he's going to fight SSC, so Maou orders to hand out flyers to attract customers, but it doesn't work, and he sends Chiho to promote the hamburgers, but people focus more on her cuteness. Finally, Maou comes up with a plan that will not fail. He calls an old man that he used to help when doing volunteer cleaning in the neighborhood. He asks him to bring a bamboo tree, and when the old man brings it, Maou gives the workers from Ronald's festival decorations for the tree and the flyers that they did not use before. On these flyers, people will write their wish and hang it on the bamboo tree. Besides, Maou also got discount coupons for those who participate in the wish tree. And just like that, McGronald's was filled with clients. The plan was a complete success. Kamizuki watches everything coldly without believing the goodness of the devil. Chapter 10. The next day, Maou was told that tomorrow he must go to help another McGronald's branch in the park. At home, while they have dinner, Rishihara investigates the place where Maou will go. It turns out that there will be a large reptile exhibition and a new haunted house will open, the most haunted in Japan. He tells Maou that tomorrow you will be able to collect magic from many scared humans, so Ashia also wants to go. Meanwhile, Imai receives 2 calls, one from Chiho who asks her to accompany her to the place where Maou will work tomorrow. Imai accepts. The other call is from Kamizuki. She tells her that Maou plans to collect magic from humans tomorrow, and she wants to keep an eye on him, and Imai agrees that she also joins her and Chiho tomorrow. The next day, Maou goes to work at McGronald's in the water amusement park and impresses the manager with his experience in serving May customers. Meanwhile, the girls arrive too and put on their bikini. But Kamizuki puts on an old-fashioned swimsuit, so they make her change into another modern bathing suit. Later, they go for hamburgers and Chiho tries to show her big to Maou, but he doesn't seem to notice. What he cares about is the experience of serving many customers. Meanwhile, at home, Ashia has a stomach ache from eating too much udon. Later, the girls go to the haunted house and Chiho gets scared easily and runs away. While Kamizuki and Imai keep wandering, they find a creepy little girl who scares them and they run away too. After that, the girls consider going to the reptile exhibition, although each one has a reason for not going in. Chiho has a phobia of them. Ima used to fight huge reptiles in battle, while Kamizuki remembers when she had to eat them in her training, even so they enter the exhibition. Meanwhile, Maou brings an order of hamburgers to a circus in the amusement park. Suddenly, a little monkey named Sadao gets lost, and they go looking for him. Sadao the monkey finds some keys to the alligator cages and opens them, then continues his walk until he meets Chiho and the girls. Then they meet Maou and the owner of the monkey. After that, the girls continue having fun in the water attractions until the alligators invade the pools, causing the entire crowd to panic. Then Maou begins to collect the panic and despair of the entire crowd. Kamizuki thinks that he will use that magic for evil, but is surprised when Maou uses that collected magic to hypnotize the alligators and stop them from causing fear to others. The day ends without any further inconveniences and the girls return by train to their homes. Chiho is happy to have seen a cool side of Maou. Ima is happy to have spent a day having fun, while Kamizuki is still pensive about what she saw today. Getting off the train, Kamizuki notices some white feathers and turns to see a guy with a hood and a pair of white angel wings, and he disappears instantly. The next day, Maou is worried about his friend Ashia, who still doesn't come out of the bathroom. Chapter 11. In the afternoon, the boys receive many packages from the landlady. She wants them to sell them at the Neighborhood Association's summer bazaar. At the next door, Kamizuki remembers her encounter with the guy in the hood. He knows her as Death Sith Bell. On Isla Ente, she was the bailiff in charge of heretics who rebelled against the Inquisition of the church. The next day, Chiho goes to help unpack the souvenirs that the landlady sent to the boys since Ashia is still sick. Then Imai and Kamizuki are also forced to help. Later, Maou and the girls take all the things to sell at the bazaar, and then he goes to MgRonald's. Then Kamizuki finds herself alone with the hooded guy again. He tells her that she must fulfill her mission, and devil, after all, her hands are full of from all the unjust judgments of the church. Meanwhile, at Mao's house, Ashia is still very sick to his stomach, and Hiroshihara threatens to call an ambulance, but he refuses because it is too expensive. Later, Imai and Chiho find a pensive Kamizuki. They invite her to eat at MgRonald's, but unexpectedly, Kamizuki tells Chiho that she shouldn't go near Maou because she's going to soon. Kamizuki also tells them that Maou is a danger for the future, because the other day he inadvertently used magic to attract customers to MgRonald's. Maybe one day he will conquer this world and Kamizuki will not allow it. She says that she will erase all traces of Ente Isla of Japan, including Chiho's memory. Chiho explodes with anger and tells Kamizuki all the good deeds Maou has done since he came to this world, but that doesn't matter to Kamizuki. She is determined to for all the atrocities his army did in the magical world. Then Imai stops the discussion and tells Kamizuki that she also wants to eliminate Maou, but not at the cost of Chiho's feelings. She as a hero will find a solution without hurting others, but Kamizuki doesn't know other ways. She's just used to killing to fix things. The discussion comes to a standstill and Kamizuki goes to the side. As Chiho and Imai go for another, afterwards, Chiho feels bad for arguing with Kamizuki since she doesn't know anything about Anti-Isla. Suddenly, Imai is attacked by the same guy from the other night, and this time he takes off his mask. He is the manager of SSC, so Imai conjures her sacred sword and attacks him, but is quickly defeated by his violet rays. These nullify her celestial powers. He takes off his cloak and his white wings expand. He easily defeats Imai. Chiho tries to call Maou, but he doesn't answer. Suddenly, Kamizuki appears and Chiho thinks that she's going to help them, but she isn't. Chiho yells that they are the same than the demons because they are willing to betray Imai even though she's part of them. Then Kamizuki puts Chiho to sleep to make her shut up. At McGronald's, Maou sees that Chiho was calling him and suddenly, her mother calls him asking for Chiho. Then Maou calls Hiroshihara to ask about Chiho and to track Imai down. While he does it, Hiroshihara tells him that the SSC manager is a fictitious name and doesn't really exist. Later, he finally tracks down Imai and finds out that she is being taken to the government office. Maou realizes what's going on and rides his bike quickly. Meanwhile, Ashia is hospitalized in the same hospital where Olba Mayer is being held, and he has just woken up. Chapter 12 later, Ashia finally wakes up and feels a little better, so he goes out of his room to stretch his legs but runs into Olba Mayer, who hits him hard and his card with his home address. Meanwhile, on the terrace of the government office, Imai is being violet rays that tries to forcefully conjure up her sacred sword, but is not working. He is the Archangel Saracel, and according to him, Heaven wants Imai's sword back. Imai asks him to release Chiho, but Saracel says that she is a human specimen who worships the devil despite knowing who he is, so he wants to investigate her. The continue as Maou tries to reach them, but is stopped by a magical barrier. Saracel realizes that Maou is trying to enter, so he orders Kamizuki to go. The girls ask her to not do it, but even so, Kamizuki takes out her giant maso and with tears in her eyes, goes to meet Maou and start attacking him relentlessly. Although Maou manages to remove his MgRonald's uniform so as not to break it in battle, Maou tells her that he knew the truth about her all this time, but he let her be, because she was harmless, even though she gives Ashia a stomach ache. But now she went too far by involving Chiho and Emi. For him, she and all the mayor are the same as demons. They don't mind sacrificing others in order to obtain power. She gives him a good whack but doesn't. Then he gets up and says that he should go to get Chai since she's part of his crew and doesn't abandon his people. Besides, he also realized that Kamizuki wants to get rid of Saracel too. Meanwhile, the mayor goes to Mao's house and tells Urushihara that he can return him to heaven, but he must help him again. On the roof of the government office, Saracel tries to Emi to pull the sword straight out of her flesh, but Chiho stops him by yelling at him. Emi joins, insulting him and calling him a peeper of women. Saracel gets angry and says that he prefers to inspect Chiho's body, but Emi warns him that he shouldn't touch Chiho because she works at McGronald's and Maou is her manager, and a manager will always take care of his employees. Saracel doesn't understand that nonsense, but it's the truth. Maou is about to arrive, although he takes time on the stairs since the elevator is broken. Upon arriving, Maou says the same words as Emi, to the disappointment of Chiho, who expected to be saved for romantic reasons. Maou is fiercely attacked by Saracel, who is very powerful due to his proximity to the moon, while Maou has no magic at all, but that is about to change. In the city, the mayor takes one of the Beta Holividum and creates a spell that turns the sky green and increases the size of the moon. The whole city panics and Maou absorbs those negative feelings and swells with power, transforming himself in King Satan. With his demonic strength restored, he frees Ente Isla and entrusts Kamizuki to take care of Chiho. Saracel is angry to see that one of his servants is on the devil's side, but Kamizuki says that Maou has done nothing wrong on Earth yet. Meanwhile, Urushihara tells the mayor that his heaven is on Earth where he lives freely and with the internet. Ulda realizes that he has been deceived and is defeated by a single blow from Urushihara. In the Heights, Maou gives Saracel a choice. Either he leaves for good or he leaves defeated by him. But Saracel says that he will defeat him. They start to fight and Mao's demonic strength is incredible. While he beats up Saracel, Maou also saves Emi from the rubble, who is exhausted from being tortured all day. In the end, Maou conjures a huge demon sword and defeats Saracel. After the battle, Maou sees all the damage the city suffered and realizes that he will have to use all of his magic again to restore it. Ashia is late for the battle because he went to the house to get his cloak. Chapter 13. It is dawn and Maou tells Chiho that he must return to Ente Isla. They cannot be together because they are from different worlds. He kisses her on the forehead and leaves through a portal. Chiho begins to cry desperately and she wakes up. It was all a dream. What actually happened is that Maou rebuilt the entire city with his magic and then opened a gate to throw Saracel out there. But that didn't work. In McGronald's, the bamboo tree enchanted by Maou became a portal and it opened to return Saracel. He is found by the manager, Maou, and Chiho. They explain her that he is the creepy manager of SFC. Meanwhile, Emi also has dreams where Maou manages to conquer the human world by turning evil. So she goes to her house to keep an eye on him as always, but she finds a love triangle between Chiho and Kamizuki who are fighting to feed Maou. Suddenly, Ashia arrives and asks Maou to give him free gaze. After that, Emi calls Emerauda to warn her about Ashia. Maybe he wants to visit the demon realm, and she must let her know in case any trouble arises. Emi's suspicions rise when she goes to spy on Mao's house and sees that a lot of packages arrived. She thinks that maybe they come from the demon realm. Sometime later, Emerauda calls her and says that there is no problem. Chiho also suspects that something strange is going on because she sees something unexpected. Maou asks the manager to switch shifts. That's something he wouldn't do. So Chiho asks him if he's going to Ente Isla, but he says that he has no magic to leave, and she asks him what is happening, but he refuses to answer and leaves. The next day, Emi and Chiho start following Maou around to find out what he is hiding, but they find out that he works at a construction site since he needs more money to pay for the trackers that Urushihara installed on Emi and Kamizuki. Emi finds the tracker and angrily tears it up, and she tells him that that doesn't explain the boxes, but Maou doesn't know anything about it. So the three of them go to the house to question Urushihara. It turns out that he was the victim of a good salesman, and without realizing it, he ended up buying a lot of things. Maou calls the company to return everything Urushihara bought, but it doesn't work, so he and Emi go to the company in person and are surprised to see that Ashia works there. He tells them that he also thinks it's a scam. Then the manager comes and explains that Urushihara signed a contract and now they have to pay him. Later, Emi comes up with an idea. Urushihara is still a teenager in the human world, and teenagers need their guardian to be present when they sign contracts, so the purchase must be canceled since Maou was not with him. Ashia thinks that Emi is very smart and they should have someone like her on the demon side. That night, when Maou gets off work, it's raining and he doesn't have an umbrella. So he goes to his house getting wet, but when he arrives at the place where he first met Emi, she gives him an umbrella and tells him that it is to replace the one he gave her that time. He thanks her, and she blushes. See Zone 2. Recapitulating the story after the disappearance of Emilia, the hero, and King Satan, the Knights of the Five Continents defeated all the creatures of the night that were part of the kingdom of Satan. One night, an ethereal lady enters Satan's deserted castle. and turns a small tree into a ball of energy. In the human world, summer begins and the boys can't take the heat anymore as Shia scolds Yurashihara for spending the entire budget on video games. Then Maou goes to work but finds Emi at the door. As usual, she was just keeping an eye on him. Suddenly, Maou feels something strange but dismisses it. He goes to work and Ashia decides to look for a job that pays more, so Yurashihara should be the new house husband. Later, Emi goes to visit Kamizuki, but she feels being watched by someone, and she remembers that Maou also felt something strange before. She thinks it might be Saracel, but Kamizuki tells her that Saracel is busy with other things. He fell in love with MgRonald's manager and goes to see her 10 times a day with the excuse of eating hamburgers, so he has gained a lot of weight. Meanwhile, at Mao's house, Ashia trains Yurashihara in housework, but suddenly, he feels a presence, but Ashia thinks that he just wants to quit the training. After work, Shigo wants to go to Mao's house to visit Kamizuki. She wants to show them some flax stalks for the festival, but Maou warns her that she better not go. He has a bad feeling. But Chiho insisted on going. At Mao's house, Yurashihara is vacuuming the floor as a form of training, and he feels a presence and manages to see a small purple orb attacking him. He thinks it's a bacteria and fights against it, but it escapes easily. Then, Yurashihara goes to do the laundry and sees a cockroach and screams loudly in horror, scaring everyone. They all run to help him because they think someone is attacking him, and they are shocked when they see it was just a cockroach. So Kamizuki with her big mallet. In the afternoon, everyone gathers to burn the flax stalks and guide the ancestors. But the smoke opens a gate, and a very big apple falls from there. Emi complains because strange things always happen to her when she's with Maou, but he says that she always stalks him and makes fun of her. Emi gets angry and conjures her sacred sword, Maou, but he uses the huge apple to defend himself against her, and suddenly, the fruit turns into a cute little girl. She falls asleep after being born, and when she wakes up, she greets them in Japanese. Her name is Ramus, but she doesn't know where she comes from, so Maou asks her who her dad is, and the little girl says that her dad is Satan. Chiho despairs that Maou has a wife and children in the demon realm, while Ashia is stunned that his sire is hiding an illegitimate daughter from him. Maou asks him to calm down and asks Ramus, who is her mom, and she points to Emi. Emi is speechless and faints just like Ashia. He can't believe that the Demon King had a daughter with a hero. Chapter 2, they try to explain to her that they are not her parents, but Ramus begins to cry inconsolably and hugs Emi. She doesn't know what to do, but she still comforts her, as if she were her daughter, and makes the little girl fall asleep. This causes cuteness to Maou, who wants to touch her little cheeks, but Emi won't let him. They don't know who sent her or what the intentions were when sending her there. The important thing now is to decide who will take care of her. Everyone gives their reasons for not keeping her, but Kamizuki says that she can take care of her. This doesn't sit well with Maou, and says that you will take care of Ramus. The next day, Chiho goes to the pharmacy and buys many things for babies and gives to them. She is surprised to see Ashia emaciated. It turns out that Ramus cried all night asking for her mom. Ashia is so grateful to Chiho that he offers her a high position in the kingdom when Maou rules the world. But she declines and tells him that Maou gave her the money for Ramus things. Later, Kamizuki arrives and brings them food, but Ramus wakes up and starts crying asking for her dad. So Chiho demonstrates her skills with children and changes her diaper, and then teaches her the names of the others. Ramus stammers the names in an adorable way, making the girls die due to her cuteness. Meanwhile, Emi at work does not stop thinking about Ramus and tells a version of the truth to her friend Rika. She advises her not to get too attached to the baby because perhaps she will return soon to her real parents. But meanwhile, she can create nice memories with the little girl, and she gives her some tickets to the amusement park. At MgRonald's, Chiho and Kamizuki take Ramus to see Maou. The little girl starts calling him Papa as soon as she sees him, and the employees and the manager are surprised. The manager takes the baby in her arms and takes them to a place alone to talk. Saracel sees her lover with a baby and thinks that she has a relationship with another man, so Kamizuki comes to the conclusion that this is not Saracel's doing. Elsewhere, the manager tells them that they should be careful when it comes to showing themselves together with a baby, since society is very critical, and they might believe that Chiho is a teenage mom. When they are alone, Maou asks Chiho to continue helping him. Since she's the only human he trusts, she starts crying at being considered one of Mao's trusted people, and tells him that she will wait for the day he is ready to give an answer to her feelings. After that, the manager gives them tickets to the amusement parks so Ramus can have a good time. At Mao's house, Ramus makes it clear that she wants to go to the amusement park with her mom and dad. At Yumi's apartment, she feels upset about the situation but decides to go to a beauty center. Suddenly, she receives a call from Emerada to ask about Saracel, but Emi asks her to look for information on a child born from an apple. The next day, Maou and Ramus are going to meet Emi to go to the amusement park, and he does not realize that he is followed by a girl with white hair and a purple ring. He is also followed by Ashia and Chiho to make sure that someone doesn't attack Ramus, while Emi looks stunning and is followed by Rika, who was curious about the situation. Meanwhile, somewhere some men open a gate to go to the human world and restore the Tree of Life to its proper form. When the gate opens in the human world, Urushihara senses it. Chapter 3. As they walk through the amusement park, the three spies think they look like a young couple with their daughter. Then the non-couple go to buy a hat for Alas Ramus, and Emi asks Maou if he doesn't plan to return with his troop, and he says that they're probably all by now. Then Emi teases that there are no demons left to rule, but he makes her see that not everyone is going to. After that, Alas Ramus wants to see children's play and they take her. When they are in the dark room, Emi complains about being so close to Maou. When the play starts, Alas Ramus goes into a kind of trance and starts muttering nonsense. Then a violet crescent appears on her forehead and she faints. They take her out of the place and Maou goes to buy a cold drink for her to drink. Suddenly, the white-haired woman who followed them approaches Emi and Alas Ramus and with her ring, makes the mark on her forehead disappear. Emi protects Alas Ramus from the stranger, but the white-haired woman says that she is not the enemy and she should be careful because maybe someone already saw Yisa's mark on her forehead. She also warns her that the enemy is coming. Gabriel and his heavenly regiment are on their way. When Maou arrives, the woman has already left. Meanwhile, at Mao's house, Urushihara and Kamizuki talk about opening the gate. At the amusement park, Maou and Emi take Alas Ramus to the Ferris wheel and are followed by Ashia and Rika getting on another car and Chiho staying below. Rika is uncomfortable because she finds Ashia attractive. Meanwhile, Emi and Maou talk about the mark of Alas Ramus. He tells her the story of his harsh childhood and how his life was saved by an angel. She took care of him and healed his injuries and told him about the human realm. Emi can't believe that the war with the demons was indirectly started by an angel. Maou continues his story and says that the angel gave him a purple crescent-shaped crystal with instructions to plant it as a seed, and he did, so he considers Alas Ramus as her daughter since he planted her a long time ago. Then Emi asked about Yesod and Maou complains that she doesn't know anything about the church and tells her that Yesod is one of the names of the Sephiroth, the cosmoplasmic orbs of the Tree of Life, and maybe Alas Ramus is the reincarnation of Yesod. When they go down, Alas Ramus wants to buy the family photo that they took as a family and Emi pleases her. But suddenly, both of them receive emergency calls from Urushihara and Kamizuki and they run home. At home, they find Gabriel and his regiment threatening Urushihara and Kamizuki with swords. Gabriel is the guardian angel of Yesod and wants to take Emi's sword and the kid. Alas Ramus completely refuses to go with the bad man and Maou doesn't think to give it up either, so Gabriel attacks Maou, and when he's about to do it again, Chiho appears and stands between Maou and Gabriel. She surprises Gabriel by telling him that she knows he is an angel, since ultimately all problems are created by angels. Then Chiho starts crying and begs him not to separate Alas Ramus from Maou and Emi. Then Gabriel is embarrassed because it seems that the bad guy in the story is him, so he gives them until tomorrow to hand her over to him. Later, Maou asks Alas Ramus if she wants to go with the angel Gabriel, but the little girl doesn't want to, so he decides that tomorrow they will defend themselves however they can and asks Emi to sleep there to be prepared. Chapter 4. Alas Ramus is delighted to have his mom and dad together, but Emi is not so much. If she asks him what his plan is, he says that he will fight Gabriel tomorrow and she has to take his place if he is defeated. Emi doesn't want to fight against an angel and Maou knows that, so he asks her to defend Alas Ramus so she doesn't get hurt and Emi agrees. It turns out that Alas Ramus is part of the Tree of Life, a tree of heaven that creates the world continuously. If the legend is true, the angel Gabriel needs Yesod to restore the balance of the universe, and Yesod is Alas Ramus. Kamizuki does not believe that the world is in danger if they do not return Yesod, but neither can they deny Gabriel's request. When Emi and Maou are alone, he tells her that he will risk his life for his daughter. Emi is stunned and he says that surely when he invaded Ente Isla, many parents sacrificed themselves for their children, and he will do the same. Meanwhile, at Kamizuki house, she asks Ashia why King Satan invaded Ente Isla, and he tells her that the demons also wanted the peace and comfort they had, which surprises her. As Maou and Emi prepare to sleep with Alas Ramus, she asks her dad to tell her a bedtime story, and he tells her his own story, but with a happy ending. When the little girl falls asleep, Emi asks Maou why he didn't stay in the demon realm after he became king, and he says that he got greedy, but doesn't explain further. The next morning, Emi wakes up and sees that Gabriel is already there. Maou wakes up and takes Alas Ramus to defend her, but Gabriel comes willing to negotiate. He tells them that he needs Emi's sword and Alas Ramus, but today he can take one away, since Emi's sword was created with a piece of Yesod. Then Maou offers something else. He offers his head for the freedom of Alas Ramus, and Gabriel takes his word and begins to choke him without hands. But something happened. Alas Ramus awakens her power and the crescent on her forehead begins to shine like her body, and she attacks Gabriel. According to her, they made themselves gods with lies and locked them up before. Alas, Ramus hits Gabriel so hard that she sends him flying, and Imai chases them flying, and Kamizuki and Ashiya manage to enter the house, and Maou asks Kamaki to take him to them. But they are stopped by Gabriel's regiment, although they let them go as Urashihara orders them to. After all, he is the Archangel Lucifer. While in Heights, Gabriel separates from Alas Ramus and with his sword breaks Imai's without problems. Then Alas Ramus asks her mom if she loves Maou and if she will always be with him. Then Imai says that they will be together until do them part. Suddenly, Kamizuki arrives and throws Maou at Gabriel, and he holds him tightly and asks Imai to both, but she doesn't want to do it in front of Alas Ramus. Then Gabriel throws Maou from a great height, but fortunately he is saved by Alas Ramus. She tells him that she is happy because her mom and dad will always be together. He says goodbye and then ascends to heaven in a shiny golden ball and disappears. After that, Imai conjures her celestial powers and restores her sword and manages to defeat Gabriel. He says that he will leave for now, and tells her that he hopes she chooses the safety of the world and not Maou. Days later, Imi meets Chiho and shows her that Alas Ramus joined her sword. Now the two are one, but the worst thing is that when she Maou, it will be like forcing a daughter to father. Chiho tells her that she should take Alas Ramus to Maou because he is very depressed since she left. So they go to Mao's house and returns Alas Ramus to him. She tells him that she just wanted him to suffer a little and to appreciate what he already has. Maou is so happy that he cries, though he tries to hide it. Chapter 5, days later, the manager of MgRonald tells her employees that the place will close tomorrow for repairs. Maou wasn't aware because he was told that when he was depressed by Alas Ramus's disappearance. Later, when he gets home, he sees that Kamizuki is moving into Imai's apartment since they are going to make repairs to all the rooms. So now he is jobless and homeless. The only hope they have is that the landlady has sent them a solution in the last package, and she did it. She sent them a videotape that they have to go see at Chiho's house because she is the only one that has a player. On the videotape, the landlady tells them that they can ask her niece for work and accommodation, but they must go to another city. So Maou calls the landlady's niece and she agrees to give them work, lodging, and good salary. When they leave, Chiho's mom tells her daughter that she liked Maou and she has her permission to fall in love with him. The next day, Maou goes to MgRonald and tells his manager that fortunately he already got a job. Then he meets Chiho and they talk for a while until they run into Saracel, and he tells them that he refused to collaborate with Gabriel even though he knew where the sword was. Chiho is worried about this information, so she tells Maou that she is willing to learn many things to help him, just like Imai. Then she asks her mom for permission to go where Maou is going to work. She will go with Imai and Kamizuki. This way, Imai and Maou will be together to protect Alas Ramus. The next day, they all go by train to the beach city where the boys will work, and at the station they are picked up by Amain, the landlady's niece. She takes them to the cottage where they will sleep, and Urashihara is amazed because they have air conditioning. Then Amain takes them to the beach restaurant that they must restore. They realize that it's a lot of work, but Maou says that they will finish it in time for the beach season, and if they are able to fill it with people, he wants a bonus. Amain agrees. Chiho and Imai are also hired because they wanted to help, while Kamizuki will take care of Alas Ramus in the sand. At night, and after a lot of hard work, they finish restoring the place and go to the beach to play with fireworks, but suddenly, they see some lights in the sea, and Amain tells them the legend of the Morin Yasa is said that those lights are drowned souls who want to drown more people to have more ghost friends. Then the loud sound scares Alas Ramus, who starts crying. Amain explains that it is the foghorn of the lighthouse. It sounds every time there is fog. They are surprised to see that she is right, and they find it strange because a moment ago the beach was clear. Scene OTER 6. As the fog rises, Alas Ramus does not stop crying. Ashiya notices a strange shape in the fog, and Amain says that she will take the girls to the inn, and the boys return to their home. Afterwards, the fog continues to get thicker, and Ashiya again notices a shape in the mist and shows it to Maou. The three boys come out of the house and see that the shape is a cyclops and a centaur. Ashiya tries to talk to them, but they are demons who don't speak Japanese, and before they tell them what is happening, a tornado takes them away. Then another demon falls and they know him, it's Kameo. Ashiya and Maou help him while Urashihara expands his black wings and clears the way to run to the house. The tornado attacks the house repeatedly until it gives up and takes the fog with it. After that, Kameo first recognizes Lucifer, then Alsiel, and finally recognizes King Satan. He starts crying and apologizes to her for not being able to defend the demon realm, then faints and takes the form of a small crow. It turns out that Maou had left Kameo in charge of the demon realm while he invaded Ente Isla, but now he is in Japan. The next morning, Maou makes sure that Kameo is still alive and then tells him that he is going to battle. And it's true, the beach restaurant is overflowing with people, supplies are running out fast, and the help of the girls is needed. Imai makes it clear to Maou that he owes her. After work, Ashiya and Maou talk about Kameo and think that maybe Old Mayor is behind all this. While everyone rests, Maou thanks Chiho for her help and tells her that thanks to her cuteness, more customers will come tomorrow. Amain tells him that he also must compliment the other girls. He thanks them too, but doesn't compliment them because it will be very strange considering that they are from different sides. This makes Imai angry and she walks away. She is followed by Urushihara and he tells her that Olba Mayor is being held by the police, but he doubts that this will last long. He also tells her that Olba spared his life in exchange for him working with him, and then he would send him back to heaven. Then he asks her who made her silver armor and her sword. She says it was Olba Mayor, so they come to the conclusion that he knew that her sword had a piece of Yisud on it. Then he tells her what happened last night. After that, Maou introduces Kamio to Chiho, Ime, and alas Ramu. The little girl is delighted with the little crow and chases it as if it were a toy. Maou explains to the girls that Kamio is his demon chancellor and strategist. Kamio is stunned that Maou works with Emilia the hero. Maou tells him that it just happened like that and now they get along more or less well. This touches Imai. Then Maou asks him what is that sword that he brought with him. They are interrupted by Amain who tells them that it is time to go back to work. When she leaves, Kamio tells them that she was the one who swallowed the demon soldiers. She has the strength of a demon god. Chapter 7. At night, Maou, Ashia, and Urushihara wait for Ime at the lighthouse. She arrives with Capio and alas Ramus inside her sword. Then Capio tells them that since Maou left the kingdom, the demons were divided into pacifists and hardliners. Then Olba Mayor went to the demon capital and said that whoever had the sacred sword could dominate the three realms, Ente Isla, heaven, and the demon realm. The hardliners wanted to avenge their king, so they joined Olba Mayor. They are led by a General Malikota and Barbaricha, and they will come to attack tonight. Amy doesn't want to leave everything in Amain's hands because Olba is involved and things can get dangerous. So she tells Maou that they should work together. Even though they don't trust each other, she knows that Maou won't let anything happen to alas Ramus. Suddenly, the gates open and many winged demons of Malikota's army are about to arrive. Imai is going to stop them with alas Ramus. Capio says that he has an idea, but he needs the sword and he forgot it at home. But mysteriously, Amain brings it with her and gives it to Maou and tells him that she knows who he is and he has to take responsibility too. After that, Amain goes to see Kamizuki and Chiho to tell them that they should take cover while the battle begins, but they shouldn't worry because if things go wrong, she will help Maou and Ime, and then she leaves. Ime fights very hard against the demons, but they are too much. One of the demons has a piece of Yisud and serves to trace the sword. He is Siriad, the leader, and he begins to fight with Imai in revenge for having killed his king Satan, but she has no intention of killing them. She just wants to buy time. After a while, Maou appears turned into the Satan king. Ashia is Alsiel again. Just as Urushihara took the form of Lucifer, they stopped the horde of demons with only words. Siriado can't believe that his king Satan is alive. Then Maou tells him that they should go back to the demon realm and tell the others that King Satan is alive and rebuilding his power in another world to bring peace to the demon world. Then Maou hugs Ime and tells Siriato that the sword is in his power, so no demon should look for it anymore. After that, the demons go through the gates and the Force seal it with all their energy falling into the ocean. Later, Amain tells Kamizuki and Chiho that they should go look for them at the beach, since they will surely swim there. The next day, Amain tells them that she won't need their help anymore, and they can go back to Tokyo, since their houses were fixed suddenly. Chiho sees the shadow of a boy sitting in the restaurant, and Amain explains to them that they are souls that come to purify themselves in this sacred place, but yesterday's fight affected them, so they all have to leave. It turns out that Amain and her father are the guardians of this place. She is the daughter of Earth's Bina. Then with a snap, everything disappears. Maou and the others are in the middle of a deserted beach with their salaries paid. They stay a while longer admiring the beauty of the city of Chashi. Maou tells Ashia that they should not destroy places like this, but dominate them. Then he gives Imai a piece of Yisud that was in the sword that Kamio brought. That sword was the horn that Imai cut off from Maou in their first battle in Ente Isla. The horn still had enough magic for Maou to transform into King Satan. Imai teases him saying if he is not afraid that she will become stronger with Yisud's pieces, but he tells her that he will dominate her too, making her blush. Chapter 8. Everyone is back in Tokyo, and Urushihara tells Maou that he should get another job since MgRonald's is still closed, so Chohi arrives to offer them a job in Nagano. It turns out that Chiho's uncle needs help with the harvest. It's a long drive, and Urushihara gets dizzy and has a hard time the whole trip. They will be staying at Chiho's family house, which is huge. Maou tells Chiho that he's glad to see different sides of her while they are there. In the afternoon, Chiho's cousin takes the three boys to show them all the crops that need to be harvested tomorrow, and meanwhile they begin to weed, which leaves them tired. Luckily, Chiho and her family invite them to some hot springs to relax, but there they meet Imi, Samazuki, and alas Ramus, who happily runs towards Maou. Then they tell a lie to Chiho's parents to explain why alas Ramus calls Maou and Imi mom and dad. They believe it, and Imi asks Chiho's dad to hire her and Kamizuki since she grew up in a wheat field and will be of more help. At night in their room, Ime apologizes to Kamizuki for getting her into this, but Kamizuki tells her that she understands her feelings. Meanwhile, Chiho meets Maou outside, and she tells him that Kamizuki told her that Imai had mixed feelings towards the three of them doing farm work. Then Maou realizes that they destroyed Imi's life on her farm, so it's normal for her to feel weird seeing demons doing farm work. Maou realizes that he can easily read Imi's reactions, and Chiho tells him that it makes her a little jealous. But she also tells him that she wants to find a solution so that all the people she loves can be happy together. After that, they go to sleep. But a while later, Maou is woken up by an energetic Emi. It's time to work. The day starts at 4:30 am. Emi and Maou are assigned to harvest eggplants, and Imai explains him the work of a farmer. Maou feels bad and wants to apologize, but she doesn't let him. Imai says that if he repents and apologizes to her, her desire to kill him will decrease, and she doesn't want that. After that, the three boys go to rest, but soon Maou and Ashiya find another task to do. They take Chiho's nephew to see his mother to harvest millet, and alas Ramus to see Imai. When the children finally meet their moms, they talk excitedly about Kamizuki sharpening her knives, but suddenly, a black bear scares them. Chapter 9. Fortunately, Imai takes charge. Even though a car with horns upset the bear even more, she knocks the bear unconscious, but is seen by everyone. The next day, she's on the local news, and Maou nicknamed her the Bear Slayer. While she is hiding from the local reporters, Maou and Ayashi work with Chiho's uncle, and he tells them how his crops have grown over the years relating to the town and city. That Maou reflects that before he unified them, the demons used to fight each other because in a magical world, they didn't need food, and a world without food can't create societies. At night, they hear the news that there is a thief of expensive fruits. The thief has already robbed the neighboring farms, and Maou realizes that the thief is the guy from the car with horns that tampered the bear. They want to do night patrols, but without involving the humans since the thief is dangerous. Suddenly, the door opens and Chiho's grandmother enters. She had heard everything and tells them that she knows that they are not normal people, but she only cares about their goodwill to want to protect her family. So she helps them by drawing a map and pointing out where the bear appeared before. Then, Yoroshihara realizes that the thieves want the solar panels that are more expensive. Kamizuki and Maou are paired up to watch a route, and soon they see the black car, and one of the thieves goes down the watermelon and continue their way. They tell Emi she is with the other team watching the panels. The thieves arrive and take one of the panels, but Ashiya stops them and catches one of the thieves, but the other three flee in the car. Then Imai chases them at maximum speed, and together with Kamizuki, they give them the scare of their lives, although one escapes and runs into Maou, turned into King Satan. He says that he must pay for hurting people just like him. Later, the thieves are arrested by the police, and Chiho's grandmother tells her grandson that before there were people who were born with powers to protect others, but nowadays it is no longer necessary, so they have to pretend they didn't see anything weird since they aren't Chiho's friends. Days after returning to Tokyo, Maou and Imai receive many boxes of fresh fruits and vegetables from Chiho's family. At her house, Imai can't stop thinking that Maou was able to find negative energy in such a remote place as Nagano. She has neglected her work to keep an eye on them. Suddenly, she receives a call from Emerauda, asking if Imai has seen Layla, but Imai doesn't know who she is, and Emerauda tells her that Layla is her mother. Chapter 10. The next day, Maou and Ashiya argue because Maou wants to buy a TV. He doesn't think it's fair that Imai can watch TV with alas Ramus in her apartment and he can't. So Ashiya calculates a tight budget to buy the TV, thinking that it will be impossible, but he didn't count on Maou had discount points to make more purchases. On the way home, Kamizuki tells Imai that she wants to go to her apartment to watch her TV, and on the train, she tells her about her speculations. She thinks that the demons soon will find out that their King Satan is alive, so they will kidnap him or they will persuade him to return to rule his army. Besides, he is a king, and Kamizuki doubts that he will leave his people alone if they ask him for help. For Kamizuki, they live in a bubble that could burst at any moment, but it's very nice to live inside that bubble, where the King Satan is Maou, a nice and hard-working guy. They don't have to fight, and they are surrounded by friends and trustworthy people. At her apartment, Imai receives a call from Rika. She wants to know what kind of clothes Ashiya likes on a woman and tells her that he invited her to go shopping tomorrow. Imai is very surprised. The next day, Ashiya warns Maou that they are only going to look for information about TV, and he invited Rika to have an objective opinion. Then Maou tells Ashiya that he wanted to have a TV before to know what toys to give to the children in their happy meal at McGronald's. Then they leave, and Gabriel spies on Mao's house. Meanwhile, Imai is in a very bad mood at her work. She knows that she can trust Kamizuki to take care of her friend from a demon, but she keeps getting exasperated, and her manager sends her home. At Mao's house, Gabriel talks to Yoroshihara and tells him that he wants to talk to him. He asks him why he decided to leave heaven, and Yoroshihara tells him that he was bored up there, so he decided to follow Satan's plans, and that's exactly what Gabriel wants to know. Not the current Satan. Gabriel wants to know about the legendary demon King Satan, but Yoroshihara evades the question, so Gabriel asks him about Satan's treasures. He no longer looks for the shards of Yesod because they took the case from him. Meanwhile, Imai remembers the talk she had with Emerada about her mother. Maybe Layla is in Japan. On the other hand, humans are at war on Ente Isla, but Imai better not interfere. Then she goes to buy jars of glass and manages to make a locator of shards of Yisid, and she goes in search of them. At Mao's house, Urushihara gives Gabriel a list of possible Satan's treasures, although it is illegible and seems very inaccurate. Before leaving, Gabriel tells Urushihara that the Watcher is nearby. On the other hand, Chiho arrives at her house and turns on her TV, but a bright light knocks her out. Chapter 11. Rika meets Ashia, Mao, and Kamizuki, and Ashia asks her for advice on buying a TV, but she invites them to eat first at a very cheap place. Ashia loves this. Kamizuki is also delighted with the taste of udon. They start talking about the prices of TV when they hear a foreign voice making a ruckus, so Mao goes to help the cashier who didn't understand the customer. Mao speaks in English and translates what the guy wants. Later, the same guy changes his language to Japanese with magic. Meanwhile, Yume follows the clues to find her mother and reaches the hospital. There she meets Chiho's mother. It turns out that Chiho is hospitalized. Meanwhile, Mao and Kamizuki manage to buy their TV thanks to Rika's advice, and Mao realizes Rika's feelings towards Ashia. So he asks Kamizuki what she thinks about them as a couple, but she tells him that they shouldn't get involved, but Mao says that they should tell Rika the truth and let her decide. After that, they are ready to leave, but suddenly, all the TV screens explode and Mao asks Ashia to take Rika away. Then, Kamizuki receives a call from Emi, and she tells her that Chiho was poisoned by a high concentration of magic. She is in a coma. They go to the hospital, and Kamizuki analyzes her pulse and thinks that her life energy was transmuted into magical energy when the celestial sonar pulse hit her through the TV. Suddenly, the TVs in the hospital explode and they run towards Chiho. Then Urushihara arrives and explains that the Watcher is the cause of this. He is sending signals through the TVs and Chiho got caught in the blast. The Watcher is the angel that monitors the actions of other angels and decides the punishments of these angels. They think that Chiho was affected because her house was the epicenter of a sonar pulse explosion when Albert was looking for Imai. So Imai concludes that the Watcher is looking for her mother Layla. Later, Emi asks Urushihara what the Watcher will do to her mother, and he says that he might take away her immortality. Then Mao says that he doesn't care about the mess between angels, but he wants to over Ragel because he attacked a future general of his army, and the others agree to take revenge on Ragel for attacking their friend Chiho. Meanwhile, Layla goes to see Chiho and puts a purple stone ring on her finger. She tells her that soon she will wake up thanks to her powerful friends. Chapter 12. Mao thinks that Ragel is in one of the two broadcast towers, so they split up to check the two. Emi goes to one and runs into Gabriel. He is helping Ragel. She asks him why Ragel is looking for her mother, and Gabriel tells her that it all started with her birth. Angels and humans are very similar, but people shouldn't know it because faith would collapse. And they are not only looking for Layla, the Watcher is also looking for Emi's father. He is alive and is on Earth. Meanwhile, Chiho wakes up and starts following Layla's instructions. She tells her that she's good with the bow. At another tall tower, Kamizuki and Urushihara send out another sonar pulse to track the others, but suddenly, Chiho appears flying a golden orb, and she tells them not to use the sonar pulse anymore because they unbalance the world more. Out of nowhere, celestial soldiers appear who want to capture Chiho, but Kamizuki helps her escape from them. Chiho pretends to arrow and flies between golden orbs. Kamizuki confronts the celestial soldiers. At the other tower, Mao and Ashia finally find Ragel and they transform into their demon form thanks to the magic that falls from the sky. Meanwhile, Imai is sad thinking about her father. He is alive and she came to this world to avenge his death. But that was a lie. She is comforted by alas Ramus, who tells her that when she grows up, she wants to be brave like her, which encourages Imai, and she regains her courage to return to battle. Back to the tower, Gabriel arrives where Mao and Ashia are with Ragel. Gabriel tells them the truth about Imai's father and Mao hits him on her behalf. He says that angels betray and hurt each other. They are worse than demons. Mao and Gabriel start fighting fiercely, and Gabriel multiplies to fight Ashia as well. After a while, Imai also joins the battle, and Gabriel multiplies even more. Then Mao looks at all the clones and realizes which one is the real one. He catches him, so that Emilia can hit it with her sacred sword. Suddenly, Chiho appears and is still managed by Layla. She shoots a golden arrow that pierces Ragel and makes his wings disappear. When Gabriel sees this, he says that they give up and flee from the battle. Emi realizes that Chiho is following Layla's orders and asks to speak to her. But Chiho says that there is no more time as she must restore the balance of the world right now, and shoots a golden arrow into the sky. After that, Chiho faints. The next day, Chiho is already better even though she is still in the hospital. Moa visits her and tells her that he is surprised that she let a stranger use her body. She says that Layla didn't seem like a bad person. In addition, she always wanted to have powers to help protect the people she loves. She also tells him that she has memories that are not hers. For example, she remembers a demon child. After that, Maou returns home and Urushihara shows him that he was able to install the TV, but Maou can't stop thinking about what Layla told him. When he was talking to Chiho, Layla possessed her body again to talk to him. She says that it's no coincidence that he came to the human world. She also tells him that Imai has the other key and asks him to find the Ente Isla's death. Chapter 13, days later, Maou can't be happier because McGronald's has reopened its doors, the place has been renovated, and the menus are better than before. Chiho tells him that it's not fair that she hasn't seen it yet, while Ashia doesn't understand the different types of coffee that McGronald's offers. At that moment, Imai enters with the last Ramus in her arms and asks Chiho to have a girl talk at Kamizuki's apartment, and she goes. Ashia does not stay calm and says that they are up to something, so he listens their talk behind the wall, but only manages to hear more suspicious words and decides to follow them when the three leave the house, but they notice and he quickly loses track of them. In the afternoon, Imai returns to Mao's house to take a last Ramus and makes up the excuse that the three of them went to eat somewhere new. When she leaves, Maou nonchalantly tells Ashia that he will ask Chiho at work about that girl's talk. The next day, Maou asks Chiho about the new place they went to eat, but Chiho doesn't know what he's talking about, so Maou begins to suspect that they are hiding something from him. At home, Imai leaves a last Ramus with them again and goes with Kamizuki to have their girl talk. Ashia is ready to follow them again, but Urushihara tells them that he still has the trackers on them and shows them that they are in a bathhouse. Maou and Ashia go to the bathhouse where the girls are, but they can't enter because it has a magical barrier up that intrigues them. Suddenly, they receive a call from Urushihara. He tells them that the landlady has sent them a digital video and a DVD. They return home and play the DVD. It is a video that the landlady sends them from the Amazon, telling them that she will only pay them a part of the agreed money for the work they did for her niece. That gives Maou an idea. He invites Chiho and Kamizuki to weed the yard. They all help but get very sweaty, so Maou tells them to go to the bathhouse. This makes Imai nervous, but they all go to the bathhouse. After that, the girls enter the girls' bathroom and begin Chiho's training. Kamizuki and Imai try to make Chiho awaken her celestial forces, and the boys have no idea what's happening on the other side because Imai put up a magical barrier. So Chiho starts screaming to awaken her celestial force, but Maou intrigues more and he goes to see what is happening. So Imai explains that Chiho wants to help if there is an emergency situation and is trying to use idea linking. Maou is touched by this but tells Chiho that she shouldn't stress herself out so much since they are monsters from another world and they are the ones who should take charge, and Imai tells him that they should respect Chiho's feelings about this. On the way home, Chiho tells Imai that whoever was in her body left her a memory of a man and describes someone similar to Emi's father, saying Asifala. Imai doesn't know what it means, but she gets an idea of who is behind the possession of Chiho's body. Chapter 14. The next day at McGronald's, Chiho doesn't stop greeting customers, almost shouting, since she has to get rid of the shame of vocalizing when she invokes a power, but Maou says that she is scaring the customers and Chiho pays attention to him. After that, Maou talks to McGronald's manager about her skills making coffee, and she tells him that he should take the training to be a barista, since people's goals change and maybe that is the best for him. At home, Maou hears Chiho's screams in Kamizuki's apartment and asks her not to overexert herself, but she continues her training with Kamizuki. She tells Chiho that if she had been born on Ente Island, she would be a great celestialist, but Chiho responds that she wishes they had been born in her world, because that way they could all be happy together without worries. Then she asks what's wrong with Imai and Maou, since she is distant from him. Kamizuki tells her that Imai found out that Maou was not responsible for her father, and to top it off, the man is alive has upset Emi a lot, and she feels that she has no more goals, because the revenge that she sought so much does not exist. The next day after work, Chiho and Maou meet Imai and Kamizuki, who were investigating what Saracel is up to. Imai tries to ignore Maou, but her eyes water when she sees him, and Maou realizes what is happening to her. So he pretends that he will conquer the world to give Imai a new goal, but she doesn't believe him. She knows that it is not in his heart to destroy this world. He starts to get angry, and she yells at him that she knows he just wanted someone recognizes him for doing something big, but before Maou can answer her, he disappears. Maou realizes that he is on another existential plane, and next to him is a man who introduces himself as Farfarello. He is a demon leader of the Maou branch, and he comes with a small human samurai. Farfarello tells him that they have captured the strong point of Ente Isla, the eastern continent, and they want Maou to join them, since he is the king of demons, but Maou does not want to. Meanwhile, the girls realize that they are trapped in a barrier, and Chiho also disappears. At that moment, Saracel comes flying and tells them that this is not a barrier, but a dimensional phase shifter. On the other plane, Maou tells Farfarello that he does not plan to return to Ente Isla. At that moment, Chiho appears next to Maou and tells the demon that Maou has many things to do in Japan. Maou puts her behind him to protect her. Farfarello sees this and asks him if he has abandoned them to protect the humans. Maou gets angry and denies having abandoned them, but says that he cannot repeat the same path as before, since before he only wanted to expand his territory without thinking about the well-being of the demons, and he orders Farfarello to withdraw the eastern continent and return to the demon realm. Farfarello says that Olba had told them that Maou had changed, and he did not want to believe it, but now he realizes that it is true. So he conjures a small ball of evil energy and gives it to Maou so that his heart regains the ferocity that it had lost. Suddenly, the barrier breaks and Imai, along with Kamizuki and Saracel, appear. Saracel tells Imai that the samurai boy is the one who controls the barrier, and she attacks him, but alas, Ramus asks her not to attack him. He is Iron, but Imai does not pay attention to her, so alas, Ramus stops being Imai's sword to stop her attack. Seeing that they are at a disadvantage, Iron and Farfarello flee, and the barrier disappears completely, and alas, Ramus tells them that Iron is like her and comes from Gebera. Chapter 15. Everyone gathers at Mao's house to talk about what is happening, and Saracel tells them that Farfarello will return for Chiho, since he realized that she can't fight, and that will give him an advantage over Maou. She feels bad for being a weakness for them, so she asks Saracel to train her in idea linking. In exchange, she will help him in his relationship with manager Kisaki of MgRonald. After that, they begin training so that Chiho can at least prove to Farfarello that she is an important piece in Mao's world domination plan. For now, Chiho can already surround herself with celestial aura while singing hymns. She just needs to be able to master the linking idea using phones. At night, everyone is on their way home and they find manager Kisaki looking at a place to rent. Maou gets scared because he thinks she will stop working at McGronald's, but she tells him that she always wanted to be a barista and have her own place to serve coffee. And although it is a distant dream, she hopes to fulfill it one day. Then she realizes that they are with Saracel and tells him that she doesn't like to see him like that. So she removes the restraining order and Saracel can eat at McGronald's again. That makes Saracel so happy that he starts to levitate. Days later, Maou and Chiho go to the course to be a barista, but everything stops and Iron appears to talk to Maou. He asks him if this will help him conquer the world, and Maou tells him that he is studying to conquer Japan first. That convinces Iron and he leaves. After that, Iron appears before Chiho and asks her to come with him. Maou notices Chiho's disappearance and tells the others. Then Saracel uses his powers to see that there is a barrier on top of the building, and Maou asks Imai and Kamizuki to lend dim their powers because he is human right now. Inside the barrier, Farfarello takes his demonic form and is surprised that Chiho is not scared, and she tries to convince him that Maou still wants to conquer the world. And while they talk, she transmits the conversation to Imai and Maou using idea linking and their cell phones. Chiho says that although she is human, she wants to help Maou conquer the world. But this world will be one where demons and heroes can coexist without fighting. At that moment, Saracel manages to enter Iron's barrier and arrives with Maou, Imai, and Kamizuki. Maou explains to Farfarello of his plans for conquest and explains the importance of money and how he plans to use money and humans for his new world. And he demonstrates it by using Imai and Kamizuki, who lend him their power. Chiho also sings and her celestial power appears, and suddenly, Maou absorbs these celestial powers and transforms into Satan, proving that he is still a demon. Farfarello is pleased to see his king Satan again, and Maou says that he has new generals. Two are already knows, Alsiel and Lucifer, but now Emilia the hero, Death Bell, and the human Chiho have joined him. Farfarello is happy and tells him that the demon's morale will increase knowing that there are new generals, and he leaves with Iron, who bids a fond farewell to alas Ramus. Chiho can't believe that she is a general, and Imai doesn't agree because he didn't even ask her. So Maou tells Imai to start from scratch. He wants her by his side to show her a new world. This makes Imai blush and makes Chiho jealous, although Maou doesn't know what he said to make the two react like that. Chapter 16. Days later, alas Ramus wants to sleep over with her dad Maou, but Imai won't allow it until he buys a futon. So they both go to a shop to buy a good futon for the little girl. On the train, alas Ramus hits her head against the window and starts crying uncontrollably, and Maou doesn't understand how she can fight angels, but a simple tap left her crying until she fell asleep, so Imai has to stay close to him to comforting alas Ramus. She feels a little self-conscious because they look like a newly married couple. At the department store, the girl who serves them says that alas Ramus looks like them, which makes Imai more self-conscious, but the one who has the worst time is Maou when he hears the prices of children's futons. Imai feels more and more uncomfortable because Maou behaves as if they really were alas Ramus' parents, and he asks her to relax. After that, they buy food and go to a park to eat it. Alas Ramus can't get over happiness at having her parents together and starts to eat. But her onigiri starts to fall apart in her little hands, and Maou laughs, saying that it doesn't do them any good right now to be hero and demon while cleaning up alas Ramus, and he couldn't help but think wistfully how long they could have her. In the afternoon, they return by train, and alas Ramus falls asleep in Imai's arms while Maou lies on Imai's side to sleep too. When they get off the train, she complains to him because they look too much like a couple. Suddenly, Chiho sees them, and alas, Ramus tells her very happily that she will sleep with her parents. Chiho's eyes water, and Maou says that he would never sleep with Imai, and Imai says the same. Then alas, Ramus starts crying because she doesn't want them to fight. So Imai and Maou calm her down and tell Chiho that they were looking for a small futon for alas Ramus, but they couldn't find the right one, so they will try it next week. At home, Emilia calls Emerada and tells her about her internal conflicts about getting rid of Maou, and Emerada laughs because she talks as if it were a divorce, and Imai decides to go to Isla Ente to clarify her feelings. Chapter 17. The next day, while everyone is having lunch together, Imai tells them that she is going to Ente Isla for a few days. Chiho is sad about the news, but Imai tells her that she just wants to find out a little about her mother, but she assures them that she will return for her birthday. The next day, Imai goes to Ente Isla. The days go by, and Maou stays busy studying to get the moped license, but he can't stop thinking about Imai coming back soon since her birthday is approaching. But the days continue to pass and Imai did not return. Kamizuki talks to Maou and the boys and says that she is worried because she cannot communicate with Imai or Emerada. Ashia also thinks that something is wrong, but Maou says that he is not worried. At that moment, Chiho arrives and tells him crying to stop lying. She knows that he is worried about Imai and alas Ramus and tells him to remember that they are his new generals. After that, Ashia tells Maou that he has an idea of what may be going on and says that declaring Imai as his general may have brought problems for her on Ente Isla. Since he is still the Demon King and the people, there must believe that Imai betrayed them. But Urashihara tells him that Imai is invincible with the last Ramus, so they shouldn't worry about her, and maybe she's just delaying her arrival. That calms Maou down and he goes back to focusing on getting his moped license. Days after, on the bus, Maou meets a foreign man and a girl, just like alas Ramus. She smells him, but the man asks her to stop, and Maou gets off the bus ready to get his license. At the headquarters, Maou sits down to wait his turn to take the exam, but he finds the foreign man and his daughter Tsubasa. She smells him again, and Maou leaves scared. The man scolds Tsubasa, and she tells him that Maou smelled familiar to a place where she was a long time ago. Meanwhile, Rika goes to Mao's apartment to ask them about Imai since she hasn't heard from her for a week, which surprises Kamizuki because they haven't heard from Imai for 3 weeks. Rika tells them that Imai called her to change shifts at work and her voice could be heard far away. At that moment, a storm breaks out and Kamizuki goes to her apartment to close the windows, but she receives an SOS from Chiho on her cell phone. So she runs to Hiroshihara and gives him Holivitin B. The two of them drink it and go out through the window flying towards Chiho's school. All of this is seen by Rika, who can't believe what she sees. Chapter 18. Meanwhile, Maou meets the foreign man and Tsubasa again, and she approaches him and smells his hands again and tells her father that he is the chosen one, and takes off her hat showing Maou that she has the same hair that alas Ramus has. Maou is surprised, and she tells him that her name is Saif Allah, and she is the younger sister of alas Ramus, although she looks older. Then Maou realizes that they are from Ente Isla and the three begin to speak the language of Ente Isla. Maou tells the man that he is his first clue to find Emilia Justina. The man becomes desperate and asks him if he knows Emilia and tells him that he is Nord Justina, Yumi's father. Suddenly, Kamizuki makes a mental contact with Mado and tells him that there is a Malbranch demon in Chiho's school, plus someone cast a spell that controls the weather. Asif tells Maou that she can fly them and makes them float in front of everyone, although Maou tells her that they should not draw attention to themselves. While at school, all the students are scared when they see that monster, so Chiho runs to the roof and awakens her celestial power by singing. The demon senses her power and goes to talk to her. He recognizes her as the human that Farfarello told them and angrily says that the demons are not going to accept the new generals. On the other hand, Rika demands that Ashia explain what is happening, but he says that he doesn't know if she will believe him, and when he is about to confess the truth, Maou, Asif, and Nord fly in and enter through the window. They just came to drop Nord off and Maou asks Ashia to take care of him and flies off again with Asif. Ashia realizes that there is something strange with Nord and begins to speak to him in the language of Ente Isla, and Nord tells him that many years ago, his wife Layla gave Asif to him and made him cross into this world and said, "When a chosen one is prepared to expose the truth to the world, bring the wings to our daughter." Meanwhile, Chiho asks the demon why he does all this since he doesn't stop burning houses and scaring students, and the demon tells her that was what they told him to do. At that moment, Kamizuki arrives to stop to the demon since she is a general of Maou, and Urashihara also arrives, but this time, he has white wings. At home, Ashia tells Rika that Nord is Imai's father and tells her that Imai is not from Earth. To explain better, he tells her that Imai is like an alien. She is human but not from this world. Rika refuses to believe what he tells her, but suddenly, soldiers surround the house and Ashia realizes that they are from the eastern continent of Ente Isla, and he deduces that they are coming for him. On the other hand, Amain feels that something is happening. Chapter 19. The fight between Kamizuki and the Malbranch demon continues, and Urashihara realizes that the demon sucks at fighting and he is just a distraction. So Kamizuki refuses to the demon even though he insists. Suddenly, the storm stops and the sky opens. Urashihara realizes what is about to happen and protects the two girls with his wings, and fire begin to rain. He can barely hold them, and when it stops, they realize that they are surrounded by the heavenly regiment. Urashihara is badly injured by the attacks, and Archangel Saracel descends towards them. Meanwhile, in Mao's house, Ashia and Nord have been knocked out by the Archangel Gabriel and his army. Only Rika is still standing, who is scared to death when she sees an angel. But Gabriel tells her that they will take them where they belong, but Rika does not give up and tries to take Ashia away from them. So a soldier gets tired and is about to execute her, but she is saved by Amain. Gabriel explains that they will not hurt the human, they only want to take Ashia and Nord, so Amain accepts, since she only protects humans. But Ashia leaves a message for Maou. Elsewhere, Maou and Asif arrive at Chiho's school, but a strong wind does not let them pass. Then Maou asks Asif for her powers to become King Satan, and she agrees even though she is reluctant to give her powers to a demon. On the roof, the Heavenly Regiment demands that Chiho hand over the shard of Yesod, but Kamizuki does her best to defend Chiho, and she is severely injured. Now Chiho is in the Maou branch's hands. Fortunately for her, Maou appears transformed into King Satan and cuts off Maou branch's arm and summons the sacred sword, better half, and begins to fight with Kamel. But the sword is too powerful for him, and he asks Asif to return to normality, and when the sword becomes a girl, she starts punching Kamel. Suddenly, Gabriel appears and stops the fight to take Kamel, and with a snap, the school is repaired and a 1-hour memory of all humans is erased. Before leaving, he tells Maou that he has Emilia in his possession. After that, everyone goes to Mao's house, and Amain tells them that Gabriel took Ashia and Nord, but Ashia left him a message. He is waiting for him at the Gates of Hell in an art museum. It turns out that the Gates of Hell is an amplifier capable of opening a gate to save Ashia, Nord, and Emi. Chapter 20, 3 weeks ago. Emi arrives at Ente Isla with Emerada's help, and she gives her a map so she can reach Sloan Village. Emi and Alasa Ramus do not have a very good time on the trip, since they are used to the comforts of Earth. The next day, Emi arrives at her hometown and runs to her childhood home and cries with joy when she sees that her father's wheat field still lives. When they enter the house, Emi looks for clues about her mother, but only finds a poorly drawn map. The next day, Emi tries to follow the map, but it is very difficult. Although Alas Ramus jumps out of her arms and runs through a tree, Emi follows her and realizes that they crossed a barrier that takes them to a small house. Alas Ramus tells Emi that the house smells like her mama. Then Emi asks Alas Ramus what her mother's name is, and she tells her that it is Layla. Then Emi starts to cry, connecting the pieces. Her mother saved Maou when he was a child, and then she scattered the shards of Yesod, but now she's trying to put them together. Suddenly, Alas Ramus starts crying next to a hole in the ground and says that Asif is not there. Emi tries to calm her down, but Alas Ramus gets desperate and a purple light comes out of her forehead, breaking the barrier that protected them. Emi takes her in her arms and flees before Olba arrives, but is too late. Olba, Ragel, and an army surround them. Olba tells her that they have her father, and Emi gives her up, and they take her to Exahan, where she remains locked up. Meanwhile, on Earth, Maou is planning the shift changes at MgRonald's before leaving for Anti-Isla. At that moment, Rika and Chiho arrive. Rika tells him that Chiho told her the whole truth, and she still hallucinates that he is Satan, and he tells her that she should not worry so much about Emi since she is not weak in Anti-Isla, but he still lets it slip that he's worried that someone is holding Emi. This makes Chiho happy and tells him that it's good to know that he's finally being honest. Then Maou tells them that he had the theory that Olba has Emi captured in Exahan because the Maou branches live there, and to check it, he called Gabriel and he confirmed that Emi, Nord, and Ashia are there. In the afternoon, everyone goes to say goodbye to Maou at MgRonald's, but Serial arrives to buy coffee and Asif goes crazy with rage and is about to attack him, but Maou locks her in his body. Although she screams at him internally, he tells Chiho that Asif and Alas Ramus hate angels. After that, they explain to Serial what is happening, and he explains that in the past, Heaven messed with the Tree of Life because they wanted to prevent the birth of a true god on Anti-Isla. At night, they go to the Gates of Hell at the art museum, but only Kamizuki and Maou can go, since there is not enough power to transport anyone else. Chapter 21. The days pass, and Maou and Kamizuki slowly advance to reach Exahan. Meanwhile, Olba makes Emi put on her armor and asks her to accompany him to a place. Emi can hear the cheers of the villagers, and Olba tells her that these people are looking for hope and a hero, and tells her that this will be her second mission to liberate Heavenski and free the Emperor Unifier, and they will go hunt the demons. At night, Maou and Kamizuki make a bonfire and chat about trivial things until she asks him the real reason why he invaded Anti-Isla. Then Maou tells her that when he was born, the demon realm was a horrible place, and he raised an army to improve it, and he succeeded, the violence had ended. But he made a miscalculation because by eliminating the despair and anguish in his land, the demons began to lose their powers because they feed on negative feelings, so he began to invade other lands to generate those feelings and feed his people. But Ime began to liberate the continents that he conquered, and he ended up in Japan. There he learned that humans live on food and not magic and only need money to get it. Kamizuki is wearing her church robes, so she asks him what his sins are, and he says that he regrets having been ignorant when it came to governing his kingdom, and she, as a person from the church, tells him that she forgives him. The next day, Emi is in a meeting with Olba and the soldiers, and she asks him to ask the demons to surrender. She does not want a massacre, but Olba does not agree with that after all. You just need Emilia, the hero's name. Elsewhere, Ashia has taken his demonic form and become Alsiel, one of King Satan's generals, and Gabriel wants him to sit on the throne of the demonic palace. Then Alsiel realizes that everything is a plan for Emilia the hero to defeat him right there, as if it were a defeat to King Satan. After that, he goes to talk to the demons who were in charge of Satan's army and asks them for explanations as to why they did not follow their king's orders and return to the demon realm. And the male branch tells him that the best way to conquer the world is using the shards of Yesod, and shows him that he has one, and it is shining, showing that it not only reacts to celestial power, but also to demonic power. Then Alsiel asks if Nord had a sword with him when they brought him. They don't know that sword is already in Mao's hands. Meanwhile, Emilia feels bad about all the demons and doesn't understand why she cries if demons are enemies of humans, but she can't stop thinking about Maou and his friends. Elsewhere, Albert, Emilia's friend, arrives at Maou and Kamizuki's camp and tells them that Emerata has been arrested, and that is why she could not contact them to tell them what happened. Maou asks him to join them to rescue Ime, and tells him that he now has a sacred sword. Then he asks Esieth to turn into a sword, but she says that something is wrong, but she still tries and turns into a dagger, and tells him that he is the one that is wrong, and she is right. Maou starts to vomit, and Kamizuki realizes something shocking. They are on Ente Isla, but Maou is still in human form and has not become King Satan. Chapter 22. In the human realm, Chiho asks Samain who she really is, and she says that she is biracial. In other words, her dad and aunt are like Alas Ramus and her mom was human, which surprises Chiho, since Samain's aunt is the landlady of this place. And at that moment, she appears and asks Chiho if she really wants to know the whole truth, even though she's unable to change anything, and Chiho says that she does want to know. On Ente Isla, Albert and Kamizuki force Maou and Esieth to stay at Albert's house since he has no powers to fight. Maou gets angry, but has no choice. Outside, Kamizuki asks Albert why he and Emerata did not eliminate Maou while he was defenseless in Japan, and he confesses that it is thanks to Adramlech, one of Satan's former generals. In one of the battles, Albert and his soldiers were at the mercy of Adramlech, but the general said that they had orders from Satan not to. They surrendered. Then Albert realized that Satan did not want massacres. After that, Kamizuki tells him that they have two objectives: to free the Emperor Unifier and Imi's father, since her hands must be tied, and that is why she cannot leave. Albert doesn't know if they can make it in time, but Kamizuki is confident that they can avoid the clash between the two armies. In the afternoon, Maou takes Esieth to eat and asks her why Alas Ramus and she can merge with him and Ime, but she doesn't know. And she doesn't believe that Malkuth and Jebura know they are like them, but she hasn't seen them since a long time ago. After eating a lot, Maou takes Esieth for a walk to digest the food, and along the way he wants to buy souvenirs for Chiho and a gift for Ime. Since they were supposed to have a birthday party a few weeks ago, they couldn't. Then Esieth asks Maou who is Ime to him, and he answers that they have a complicated relationship because of Alas Ramus, but he would label her as his rival, since she always says that he is her archenemy. But Esieth is not convinced with that answer since he is still looking for a good gift for Ime. Suddenly, Esieth feels like vomiting, so Maou quickly pays for Imi's gift and runs to get her out of her place, but her vomit activates the purple light on her forehead that takes them flying to Albert's place. Meanwhile, Olga takes Ime to a war council and is informed that Alsiel is in Havinsky Castle and Ime has trouble calling him by his demon's name, since she is used to calling him by his human name, Ashia, but she composes herself and asks if Alsiel is with Satan, but they answer no. Olba tells her that this time she will defeat Alsiel, and Ime realizes why they brought her, while Alas Ramus internally gets excited to see Ashia and her dad, which saddens Ime, and she retreats to her tent. As soon as she enters, she begins to cry because she must face the demon army and defeat Alsiel, so that Olba returns her father, but just thinking about hurting Mao's people makes her sad, and she wishes that Satan would come to help her. So Alas Ramus comes out of her and tells her that she is sure that Maou will come to help her, and they can all live together like before. But Ime is distressed because she has let many demons perish at the hands of Olba, and that will make Maou consider her an enemy again. Suddenly, she receives a letter from Alsiel, This letter is in secret codes using names of Japanese foods, something that Olba and those from Ente Isla do not understand. But Ime does, and her eyes moisten with joy because Alsiel tells her that Satan will soon come to help her. Chapter 23. Kamizuki and Albert use underground passages to enter the Hivinsky castle and reach the room where the Emperor Unifier is locked up. But Gabriel appears and tells them that this is the room of Nord, Amy's father, and opens a gate. Before sending them away, he tells them that they need to keep the Emperor Unifier locked up and forces them to cross the gate. When they leave the gate, Kamizuki and Albert realize with despair that Gabriel sent them to the western continent, and it will take days to reach the eastern continent where Esahan is. Meanwhile, Imai is ready to lead the attack on Hivinsky Castle, and Olba warns her that if this is a trick, her father will pay dearly, and she says that she knows what she has to do and invokes her heavenly powers. Her hair turns silver, her armor too, and once again, she is Emilia the hero. She and her army arrive at Hivinsky Castle, and Alsiel is waiting for her ready for battle. They start speaking in code using Japanese foods and Olba, and the army do not understand what they are talking about, so Emilia and Alsiel fly as high as possible, and when they make sure that no one is listening to them, Emilia asks him if Satan is coming, and he says yes. So they have no choice but to continue with this charade and fight. On the other hand, Asif wakes up sore from vomiting, and suddenly a purple crescent appears on her forehead, and Maou realizes that alas Ramus is fighting right now. Asif gets desperate and wants to go where her crescent points, Hivinsky Castle. They decide to use the scooters since they cannot fly because Gabriel will discover them. Meanwhile, Emilia and Alsiel continue fighting, but without launching deadly attacks, so Emilia apologizes for having let Olba a bunch of demons using her name, and Alsiel tells her that he understands her but warns her that he would be angry if she let little Alas Ramus catch a cold. But Alas Ramus is the one who is having the best time, since in one of Alsiel's attacks, he spins Emilia so much that Alas Ramus thinks they are playing, but accidentally, Alsiel drops her and Emilia hits her nose. This makes her angry, and she launches an attack on Alsiel that breaks the roof of the castle, and he warns that they should be more careful with the attacks because her father is there, and Emilia begins to cry because she is so close to him, but far away at the same time. Alsiel tells her that they must continue with this charade or they will never be able to rescue him, and they continue fighting half-heartedly for 7 hours. Elsewhere, Gabriel, Makal, and Ragel observe the fight, and Makal does not trust that Emilia is fighting with all her being. Since she has a last Ramus, at that moment, Ragel shows them that 2 scooter motorcycles are approaching, but Gabriel was already prepared for that and sent an army to stop them. Maou and Asif advance at full speed with their scooters, and the soldiers only move away because they do not know what a scooter is. The 2 throw small bombs at them that distract them, while they get closer to Emilia and Alsiel. At that moment, Emilia and Alsiel stop their fight when they hear the scooter horn and can't believe that Maou came on one of those. Olba and the demons are also surprised to see Maou, but he and Asif do not pay attention to them and manage to force their way into the castle. Once the 2 of them are inside, Asif lends her powers to Maou and he transforms into King Satan, while she goes to rescue Nord. Satan goes up to the roof, and the first thing he does is scold Alsiel because he had to sacrifice many shifts at MgRonald's to come rescue them. Emilia begins to whimper and asks for forgiveness for what happened to his demons who perished because of her, but he sees her strangely and says that there is nothing to apologize for, and at that moment, Nord flies up to the roof with Nord in her arms. Emilia can't take it anymore and starts crying while hugging her father's sleeping body. Alas Ramus also starts to get impatient because she also wants to hug Satan. So Emilia releases her and the little girl hugs him, and he tells her that he has a surprise for her and shows her Asif. The 2 girls look at each other and start to cry too while hugging each other. Asif can't believe that her big sister, Alas Ramus, is still a baby. Emilia doesn't understand anything, and Satan tells her that they will have to have a big family meeting at home after all this is over. Chapter 24. Gabriel, Ragel, and Makal arrive and are ready to face Satan. Ragel tells Emilia that he doesn't care if she fights them, but asks her what will happen if she joins Satan in this fight with so many witnesses. But Satan asks Emilia not to fight this time. Meanwhile, Kamizuki and Albert get an idea and run to the cathedral where Emerald is being tried for treason. Then Kamizuki turns into Crestia Bell and demands that they free her. After that, Emerada opens a gate and transports Crestia Bell and Albert to the Heaven Sky Castle and calls Maou on celestially altered cell phones, and he asks her for forgiveness for the destruction of the scooters. But she asks him about the Emperor Unifier, and Alsiel takes the phone and tells her that the demon Malabranch will hand him over, and Crestia Bell goes to the demon. The fight between the 3 archangels against Satan and Alsiel is fierce, and Emilia wants to help him, but Satan forbids it. So Asif asks Emilia to give him the shard of Yisuk that she has, so she can transform into better half. But when Emilia gives it, Asif says that it is of no use to her because it was exposed to celestial power, but that shard of Yisuk points to Alsiel. He has one. Immediately, Emilia goes and cuts Alsiel's armor and quickly takes the shard that he had, as Siath says that this shard was exposed to magic, so she will use it. Then, Siath takes it and flies to Satan, and they join their foreheads. He regains all of his powers, and Siath transforms into the sword better half. Alsiel explains to Emilia that all this time it was thought that the better half swords were sacred, but that is not the case, and alas, Ramus says that Yisod is a branch of the Tree of Life. They unite lives and hearts. Meanwhile, on land, Crestia Bell approaches Olba and Farfarello, the leader of the Malabranch demons. She tells him that she is a new general of King Satan, and she brings an order from Satan to Farfarello to leave Olba's side, and he can return to Cameo without consequences. Farfarello accepts Crestia's order, and Olba cannot believe that a person from the church like Crestia would join King Satan, but she tells him that she wants a world where everyone can coexist in peace and harmony, and only Satan can achieve it. Then Crestia begins to speak to the army and tells them that there are no good angels. They are just humans with strong celestial powers who call themselves angels, but they have only brought destruction to the continent, and what better proof than two beings called demons are fighting against them to bring peace, and can prove that all the destruction that the continent has suffered is the work of Olba and the archangels. At that moment, Emerada and Albert arrive with the Emperor Unifier, and he tells the army that Crestia is telling the truth and asks the army to believe her words, and Crestia declares Olba guilty. The fight between Maou, Alsiel, and the Archangels continues, but seeing that everything is getting out of control, Ragal opens a gate and manages to escape with Makal. Maou catches Gabriel and says he will take him to Japan to make him says everything he knows. After that, everyone tries to put the castle back together, and Emilia goes back to being Imai and Satan goes back to being Maou. She tries to apologize again, but he tells her that their relationship has not changed and she should not apologize to him, but rather with Rika and Chiho. The next day, they return to Japan and Chiho cries, hugging Imai and welcoming everyone home. Imai goes to her father's room where he is still sleeping, and Rika goes to see her and tells her that she has been fired from work because she has been absent for more than a month, and tells her that she already knows the whole truth about her past. So Rika tells her a little about her university past and says that she is happy to continue being her friend, and Imai starts to cry, which wakes up Noor, and he thinks that he is in a dream because his daughter is by his side. But Imai hugs him crying and tells him it's real, they're finally together. After that, everyone has dinner together like one big happy family, just like Maou told Imai in Ente Isla.